where you and I would look in our backyard and we'll see a little thing on a post and we'll say, oh, that's a little thing on the post. Someone that is schizophrenic will look at that thing on the post and they'll say, oh God, that's going to hurt me. That's an IUD or that's a bomb or something.
You're watching the Spotlight Network. Starring Hollywood's newsman, Logan Crawford.
They now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford. Streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring the powerful journey of recovery and resilience with a terrific author. His name is Nicholas Wakazi. His book is called Self-Help and Mental Health, Tough Path to Wellness, Our Story. It's co-written by his son as well, and they take us on an inside journey into the real-life battle against schizophrenia and the hope of remission and recovery. It's a story about family, faith, and fighting stigma, showing that healing and a productive life are possible. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Inks and Bindings for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Nick, thank you so much for joining me here today.
I'm delighted to be on with you.
Delighted to have you on the show. This is an important message, so I'm happy to spread the word about it. Talk to us about collaborating with your son on this book. How did that come about?
An interesting journey. He was I guess a junior at Florida State University, and he came home, and my wife and I noticed there was something different, and we ended up sending him to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and then a clinic. And he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. A young man, he was 19, and he was brilliant, good looking, was just an above average kid in high school. And so you hate to see something like that happen. He was in and out of hospitals, and then an incident occurred, I don't know, it was about 6 months ago, where his doctor retired. His psychiatrist that he'd been seeing for a long time retired and didn't get him another psychiatrist. And so he got off his meds, which was, can't believe that happened, but he got off his meds. And where you and I would look in our backyard and we'll see a little thing on a post and we'll say, oh, that's a little thing on the post. Someone that is schizophrenic will look at that thing on the post and they'll say, oh God, that's going to hurt me. That's an IUD or that's a bomb or something. They interpret things a little bit differently than the average person. So he's off his meds. He calls the police and he said, there's something behind my house and I think it's a bomb or something. And the police called me, we live in different locations. And so the police called me and says, we have your house surrounded and your son won't come out. And I said, well, he sent me an email about something on a post. Did you guys check that out? And he said, there's nothing on the post. And so they ended up tear gassing the house, taking him out and, dragging him out, putting him in jail. And he lives in the Orlando area. We're down here in Hollywood, Florida. So we drove up there the next day and went to court, and he was found not guilty because of insanity, because he was off his meds. But he was put in jail, because they had to stabilize him, which is the right thing to do. And they got him back on these in-Vegas shots, which were shots rather than medicine you take. I wish they had this that would last longer. They last about a month. You would hope they have a shot that would last about 3 months and then a shot that would last a lifetime, but it's only last a month.
Yeah.
So he gets that shot every month, but he has to go before a judge because of this incident, every 3 to 6 months. And the judge said, when he was explaining his illness and what happened and how it occurred, the judge says, you know, you understand this illness than anybody that's ever come before me.
Mm.
And so when he came, we talked on the phone. I said, you know what? We're going to write a book. And that's how we got to write the book. I said, you write it from somebody that has the illness, and I'll write it from the standpoint of how it affects the family. Because when somebody has any mental illness, whether it's schizophrenia or bipolar, whatever it is, it affects the whole family. And so we wrote this book together. We learned a lot about each other. And I learned more about how it first occurred with him. Like most, I guess I never did it, but like most kids, they party. He was single and he partied, when he was at Florida State, and they'd go to parties, and he says he smoked marijuana almost every day. And I said, oh my God, why would you do that? And the thing that I found in my research is that if you have any type of gene or mental illness in your family, be very careful, because when your brain is being formed between 15 and 25, if you go into psychosis when the brain is being formed, it can change you forever. And that's exactly what happened to him. He started smoking marijuana, his brain was being formed, and once it changes, boom, you can't change it back. You have to be on pills, or you have to be on a shot your whole life. And so I learned a lot about how to avoid it from happening. So far, they don't have a shot, like I said, that they give you a shot. It's done. You don't have to worry about it. And, I'm hoping that'll happen. But we decided to write this book, and some people that have read it have talked to me and he said, that's really helped me out. They ought to sell this book at every bookstore in the universities and things like that, because people need to read this, that, it's all right to have fun, but just be careful. If you have a gene or whatever it is that people have that can get this illness, don't bring it on by, taking drugs. I've talked to people that have taken drugs, and that's what happened to them. They were taking drugs. He was smoking marijuana, which is a drug. But I would imagine any traumatic thing that happens to your brain between 15 and 25, try to avoid those things from happening. Try to avoid, getting a shock to your brain. Try to avoid, any drugs at all.
Yeah.
So we wrote the book, and now I'm getting that book. I have 4 books I've published.
Wow.
That book is getting probably has helped the most people. All my books I try to write to try to improve the world in some way.
Mm-hmm.
This book is getting more, traction, as far as people even calling me, say, Nick, can we have lunch? I want to talk to you about something that's happening with my son. Or I married a person, he's schizophrenic, and he committed suicide right in front of me. And that's a danger. Is once someone has this illness, they want to achieve what they've always wanted to achieve, whether it's an engineer or a doctor. They have those dreams when they were young. And if they see that they can't achieve those dreams, and if you don't treat them correctly, like, most dads are saying, hey, you got to get a job, you got to do this, you got to do that. They could get so down that they'll commit suicide. So you have to be very careful, even when someone gets this illness, on how you treat them.
Amazing. It's an amazing story. You unpacked a lot of great information there. I was thinking as you told the story, a couple of things. One, if you look at drug use, such as marijuana, what does it do? It, in many cases, induces a delusional-like state.
Yeah.
So basically, you're rewiring your brain to see things that aren't there, feel things that aren't, part of a stimuli. So it's very, very intriguing. And I've heard that from people who've used marijuana, that have become very paranoid while using it. Some go into panic attacks. Some do have delusions. So it is a drug. You have to be careful with drugs. If you can avoid it, because your son, of course, is a cautionary tale. So his time in college was like somebody flipped a switch on him. He went from being an average kid to being somebody who was troubled.
Exactly. He scored very high in the SATs. He could have gone to any college. So you knew in high school, when he graduated from high school, he was above normal. He could have gone to any place he wanted to. And he picked, Florida State. So he went there. But it's one of those things. It's like you said, if there's people that can smoke marijuana and nothing will happen to them.
Right.
I've had for it, nothing will happen to them. But if there's anything, your brain is wired a little bit differently than those
Right.
people that can't be hurt by it, then you're taking a chance. You're gambling. You know, there could have been somebody in your family 3 generations back that had some kind of mental illness, and that gene follows you. And so don't take a chance. If you don't get yourself into that psychosis state when you smoke marijuana, then nothing will happen to you. So you just have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
And that's why most people are buying the book, but they're also buying it because they want to know how to act with someone that is mentally ill and what you should do and how it affects your family.
Absolutely. I feel like the government's done a real disservice by having these dispensaries all over the place just so they can collect enormous amounts of taxes on it. It is a drug. It is dangerous. I think it should remain illegal. And I don't want to sound old-fashioned or old school, but look what happened to your son. You never know. It's Russian roulette. When you're
Yeah,
taking a
exactly.
substance that alters your state of consciousness, you're playing with your brain chemistry, and your brain chemistry is a delicate balance, no doubt. How old is your son now? And
He
this
was
happened
born
6 months ago?
he's around in his 50s, late
Mhm.
50s. And so he's been, with psychiatrists just about since he was 20 years old. So he's been, like 30 years old. He really understands this illness quite well.
Yeah.
But when they go off their meds, in this case, he can't because he gets a shot every month. But then that's when things get back to being schizophrenic. When he sees things or interprets things that you and I would interpret correctly, he would interpret them, he would have that paranoia. And so
Right.
he's going to be with it his whole life. And we got to, it's something I have to live with. I mean, I won't, hopefully he will, he will die after me. So I have to set up, people that have someone like that, they have to set up trust. They have to make sure that they're taken care of after, you die. And then, because even with these shots he gets, that just allows him to do, get by.
Yeah.
But it doesn't allow him to figure out, okay, well, I have an electric bill to pay, or I have a power bill to pay, or mortgage payment. I have to do my taxes and things like that. There's still things that they have trouble doing.
Mm.
And so that's why I have to set up a trust for him after I die so that people can take care of him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a constant source of worry on one level or another that you'll get a phone call like you did from the police, like you
Yeah,
say, 6 months ago.
yeah.
So it's been a nightmare, I'm sure, for decades now. Um, but when he has his medication, he's doing pretty well.
Yes, he can live, in kind of like a normal life. I remember going to my wife and I used to go to a psychologist and a psychiatrist when he first became ill. And I was going there, in my 3-piece suit. And he says, just keep in mind, he will never have that 3-piece suit you have on. He's going to live a different life. And he almost predicted it. He says he will be in and out of, sanitary. He'll be in and out of hospitals. He'll be in and out of jail in some cases. And that's, they can predict that life for someone that is schizophrenic. And so you got to get ahead of this thing. And that's why we wrote the book, and evidently it has helped some people. I mean, I'm getting calls you know, on your show. We
Yep.
want to get the word out there. I mean, I try to do that in all my books. I wrote the book, The Medical Project, because my daughter died. There's always and I needed to, it was more of an outlet to me. But when I looked at why our medical industry is not up to speed with our technology,
Mm.
I remember it's the same thing happened with my son. It happened with my daughter. My daughter got cervical cancer. And I said, listen, I can afford to send her to any hospital, send any doctor, just tell me where to send her to get rid of this. And they said, we can take care of it ourselves. We can do it. And so they did the best they could, but they weren't the best. And
Right.
so when I ended up, she ended up dying like 3 years later. And I said, okay, we shouldn't have to go through this, or anybody should go through this.
Yeah.
a primary care physician just type in who is the best doctors for cervical cancer, where are they located, where should he send this person, what is the procedure to get rid of this?
Right.
I mean, we have the technology, and we got people, probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that get cervical cancer.
Yeah.
And if you have a database that says, okay, here's the data, here's the procedure you have to follow, here's where you should probably send, your daughter, and here's, the best doctors. I had that. It should be, the technology's there. So I wrote a book called The Medical Project because I wanted to figure out nobody should have to go through a daughter's death when it could be avoided with technology. And we have the technology and the databases now that we should be able to do this. And, I was hoping that they're thinking about making The Medical Project into a movie.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping we can get more publicity out there on just a medical computer that can help the doctors, find the best places to go and whatnot. And it's a fictional book. I had to make it where people are trying to stop these people trying to come up with this medical computer. And so I tried to make it an action thriller, and now they're thinking about a movie. So that was my first book, and that really helped me get through my daughter's death.
Yeah.
And
it gave you a place to funnel your energy, to funnel your grief, to turn it into a positive by helping others.
Exactly.
Hopefully AI is a big help in medical diagnostic and the type of devices and tools and computers that you're talking about.
Yep.
And unfortunately, when you go through someone being very, very ill in your family, you do become an expert on it, but sometimes it's a little late. That's the problem, and that's the wisdom you're trying to share with people. And I've been through that with family members, and it's a tough situation because suddenly you're pulled into this, boiler where you have to make decisions that are life, altering or life saving or life ending. And you don't know, if your emotions, your limited knowledge. You might have a friend who's a doctor, you call them, whatever it might be.
Exactly. That's the way things are really done today. You have to have a friend that's a doctor, and he says, this happens to be a pretty good hospital
facility,
something like that. But it should be available. We have the technology. Let's just use it.
Exactly.
I'm hoping that will change the world a little, but people would have to change the way we're doing medicine today. And then we'd have to have all that information, because who knows, there could be somebody in Turkey that's come up with some cure for certain things. And nobody knows about it, and boom, you'd know about it. Because and think about COVID. I mean, we have wearables now on my watch and whatnot that would tell me, okay, you got a temperature, and if this was all fed into some computer, you'd be able to say, we got people in Hong Kong that have high fevers and they're dying at this rate. You could isolate it and try to figure out a cure before it spreads all over the world. So
I think it's coming. I do think your vision is coming, and I think AI will fuel it. Because it can do so much computing instantaneously that it'll be able to crunch data that nobody else could ever crunch. Well, you've done great work on this book, and your daughter's book sounds excellent as well. Nicholas Licausi is the author's name, the man we're talking to today. The book we primarily focused on today is called Self-Help and Mental Health, Tough Path to Wellness. Our story. It's co-written by his son as well, and he takes us inside the real-life battle against schizophrenia and the hope of remission and recovery. It's been a decade-long battle for Nicholas and his son. We wish them Godspeed, and there's great wisdom to be learned from the pages of this book. God forbid you ever find yourself in the same circumstance, and you never know when you will find yourself in similar circumstances. Nick, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you. You really understand this.
I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate your candor and your insight on both of these subject matters, medical technology and schizophrenia. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.